जब हम एक लॉयर के बारे में सोचते हैं तो हमारे दिमाग में एक स्टीरियोटिपिकल इमेज आती है, से ऑफ अ पर्सन वेयरिंग अ ब्लैक रोब, एक काला कोट, वेयरिंग अ वाइट बैंड, जो एक कोर्ट रूम में असर्टिवली लीगल आर्ग्यूमेंट्स प्रेजेंट कर रहा होता है। लेकिन बिजनेस में देयर इज अ साइड ऑफ लॉ जहां लीगल थिंकिंग क्वाइटली डिसीजन मेकिंग, रिस्क नेविगेटिंग एंड कंप्लायंस रिलेटेड इशू को काफ़ी हद तक रीडायरेक्ट करती है, और इसी स्पेस में इवॉल्व होता है एक जनरल काउंसिल का रोल। और आज हम इसी पर्सपेक्टिव को एक्सप्लोर करने वाले हैं। वेलकम टू अनदर एपिसोड ऑफ लॉ एंड जस्टिस। आई एम ऐश्वर्या कपूर और आज हमारे साथ हैं डॉक्टर संजीव गेमावत विद अस। डॉक्टर संजीव गेमावत is the managing director and Group General Counsel of the Essar Group. He is not only a lawyer, he is also a CMA, a CA, and a CS, and also holds a doctorate in law in insider trading. So, Mr. Sanjeev Gemawat, it's a pleasure to have you here. So, let us get into your journey.
No, thank you very much, Aishwarya, for having me in your show.
Yeah.
And absolutely, it's my privilege and pleasure.
Yeah.
So,
thank you, sir. So, let's start with the basics and how you got into law. So, was there something that motivated you, or was there someone who motivated you to get into the legal fraternity in the first place?
Well, Aishwarya, it's a long history.
Yeah.
I'm not from the generation which is there in the legal profession in the last 1 decade or so. I'm talking about nearly over 3 decades back when I entered into this profession.
Yeah.
So traditionally, this profession has always fascinated everyone from our freedom struggle onwards. You will notice that this profession was one such profession which was fascinating the younger generation because they were contributing to the nation building.
Yeah.
So this is one aspect of
Yeah.
it. But the period from which I am coming, or where I was having that education,
Yeah.
that was a period of early 90s or late 80s. Now, that period was a very different period. Traditionally, there were very limited options in terms of choosing or preferring a profession. I belong to a place called Jodhpur. It's a famous city called Sun City, and it's in Rajasthan.
Okay.
And their traditional preferences for students used to be either engineering or medical profession,
Of course, yeah.
or chartered accountancy.
Yeah.
And chartered accountancy was a very prominent kind of professional qualification. So I entered into that profession. So frankly speaking, my first preference used to be the chartered accountancy. And in fact, in that stream of profession, I was chartered accountant, as you mentioned, company secretary, cost management accountant. So I'm a member of almost all kinds of these institutes, including the chartered secretaries and administrators of UK. But in 1991, there was a complete shift in the Indian economy. And I think that credit should be given to the then Prime Minister, Mr. Narasimha Rao, and the Dr. Manmohan Singh, who was the Finance Minister. And that was a period of liberalization. 91 completely changed and shifted the priorities of professionals, that what would be the future in the Indian ecosystem in terms of various professions. And I thought that, yes, I should be having this qualification. One more reason which I should mention to you, and which still I'm waiting, there used to be a talk of forming an Indian judicial service.
Yeah.
And that Indian judicial service, and of course it has not been formed so far, but then there were some judgments, and I think one judgment was Supreme Court on record, and the Union of India. I think that there also they were talking about formation of the Indian judicial service, and I thought at that point of time appropriate that this profession in terms of judiciary might be a game changer in the times to come. But then coming again to my background, because I was having these multiple qualifications, I thought of entering into legal profession. I did my LLB, I did my post-graduation in law, I did my PhD also in law, and I practiced as a lawyer for some time. I practiced as a chartered accountant for some time. And in that flow, the profession got, evolved. So very briefly, if you ask me that, yes, there was a background of the legal profession in my family. My father was also a law graduate, and though he was in the police services and the prosecution services thereafter, but then there was some tradition as far as qualification is concerned. But big game changer, I would say, the 1991 liberalization, which changed the perspective of professionals and students in terms of their preferences.
Understood. But since your academic qualification is so extensive and it is so diverse, so when you say started off in law, were you sure that, okay, you want to work with businesses or companies, and were you in that mindset that, okay, one day I want to work with a big company as that counsel or as a general counsel or whatever, or you also wanted to get into the traditional legal practice first and then explore what your other options were?
I would say it was a mixed thing, Aishwarya, and I will give you reasons for that. As economy opened up, there was a need at that point of time of business lawyers, and I would say particularly tax lawyers. There were very few tax lawyers in the market. I was having a background as a chartered accountant in terms of direct taxes, indirect taxes and all that. So my choice was that I should be getting into a tax practice. But that was also another dimension of that period was that company secretarial profession was, picking up like anything because of the capital market, changes. And I got those kinds of opportunities, which at that point of time are difficult for me to say no.
Understood.
Because in a period where the compensation level is so poor and where the changes are happening in the Indian ecosystem, and corporates were offering a significant amount of compensation, and that was the starting point. And traditionally, Aishwarya, at that point of time, Indian market was not knowing about this concept of general counsels. It was basically companies used to have legal managers. People who they were the middle level kind of positions at that point of time, looking after legal work. There was no that kind of role which we are enjoying today. That was not the role at that point of time.
So you also started as a legal manager?
No. So I, because of my background, I was, my designation used to be, say, finance controller and company secretary and all that. And legal used to report to me.
Okay.
So in that process, I entered into this profession. So I was, traditionally, I used to be, from that period onwards, I used to be head of legal, taxation and secretarial functions. And this is how my journey started. And of course, this concept of general counsel that evolved at a later point of time. And I may answer you, when you would be asking me that question, how that got evolved.
So just a follow-up to this now. Again, I think we should know how it evolved. And secondly, in very layman terms, if you can just explain, what does a general counsel do? What is the designation of a general counsel and what all responsibilities that designation entails with it? If you have to give it in very brief, of say what is the role or what are the prime responsibilities of a GC, then how would you frame it?
Well, I would say that very simplistically speaking, a general counsel's role in any corporate or a business house is of a strategizer for the group, a strategizer for the business. He is enabler for the business and he is protector of the business. And these are the three large roles which a general counsel plays in terms of strategizing in an ecosystem which is flooded with legal and regulatory frameworks.
Got it.
In a situation where your action or inaction may lead to impact on your business, and so you will have to be compliant with law, and that is the enabling function.
Got it.
You need to be protecting the interest of your stakeholders and also the assets of your company or assets of your business house, and that is the protector and preserver of the company or the assets of the company. So this is the larger role which today we are talking about when we talk about general counsels. Of course, traditionally we used to say, general counsel kya hai? General counsel is a legal manager. He is drafting some documents. He is supporting the external counsels. He is helping in terms of litigation work in the court process. So that used to be the traditional role. I don't say कि वो रोल आज नहीं होता है, आज भी वो रोल होता है, लेकिन उसका जो मायना है वो बदल गया है। वो मायना सिर्फ एक प्रोसीजरल तरीके से हेल्प करना नहीं है, उसको स्ट्रेटेजाइज करके कंपनी के बेनिफिट में और स्टेक होल्डर्स के बेनिफिट में कैसे उन इश्यूज को आपको ड्राइव करना है, वो रोल जनरल काउंसिल का आज की डेट में। अगेन आई वुड लाइक टू मेंशन दैट this role and this designation, it's an American connotation. Okay. It's an American concept. Okay. And it got developed in the United States, say nearly 4 decades back. Okay. In India, it got developed in the last 2 decades. Okay. So that there is a history. And whatever happened in the United States or in the developed nation, and similar things are happening today for the last 2 decades in India. So this is the part of the evolution of a profession. जैसे हम कहते हैं कि professions do evolve, professions get created because of the demand of the market, because of the legal ecosystem or regulatory ecosystem in you function. So professions get created, and this particular profession is also a part of that evolutionary process in the legal side.
Understood. So how closely does a general counsel work with the higher ups, say in a business or in a company? Like how closely is the general counsel, or is the GC involved with the boardroom meetings, with the CEO, with every decision making that happens in the company, or the role of GC comes later, say after a decision is made and then when the risk has to be mitigated, or the involvement is from the very start when say any decision is about to be made?
Well, it's an interesting question, Aishwarya, and I think it's relevant also. I would say, as I said, कि this profession is evolving. So the practices may differ from organization to organization.
Fair enough.
In an organization which is a diversified organization, an organization which is dealing with multiple legal and regulatory frameworks, the position and profile would be very different than a normal trading organization or a normal manufacturing organization. So the role would differ from organization to organization, industry to industry. But largely when we talk about general counsel's role, it is a very senior position in an organizational setup. And when we say the senior position, these are typically what we use the term CXO positions. It is equivalent to the CEO or CFO or those kinds of various functional heads kind of position. So it is also one of the function. Now your specific question was that whether it deals with the higher ups. In fact, he is a higher up. Okay. So obviously he would be dealing with his peers, colleagues, and all that. So this is one level. As regards when you say whether that interactions at the board level, undoubtedly, because board takes care of multiple governance regulatory issues, either through committees or audit committee or risk committee or at the board level. So obviously that interaction would be the part of his role and profile. So a general counsel typically, as I said, when the role is of a strategizer, enabler, and protector, you will have to deal with that level of people because you are the driving force for the organizations, businesses, or if I can say that whatever impacts the organization, and whatever impacts the organization can be either reputation. If it impacts the reputation, if it impacts the organization in terms of any disruption, business disruption, or anything which leads to any financial liability. Now, that is the area where the general counsel works. And obviously, that role in itself suggests that he will have to be dealing with those kinds of people. And in fact, he is part of that leadership only. Yes.
So, if somebody, say, wants to get into the in-house legal field, and as you had also started your journey, so how does the typical journey look like? Like from what position a fresher would start, and then how his roles and responsibilities would change as he would climb up the ladder?
Well, it's an interesting question, and I don't think that there is a definite answer to this, how one needs to start his or her journey. But personally, I think that the fundamental there are certain prerequisites for becoming an in-house lawyer. This legal knowledge is one aspect which almost all lawyers would be having. But you need to be having a business orientation.
Got it.
You need to be having an orientation that if litigation happens, how would you be dealing with this situation? So it essentially means that you need to be a risk assessor.
Okay.
Now, these qualities do not come automatically. They come through lots of practice and experiences. So personally, I feel that a young lawyer who is entering into this profession, he should typically undergo at least a couple of years of training in the litigation side, because that litigation would teach him how the documents get read, comprehended, interpreted, or inferred. Now, because the test of any document is the court or the arbitration. Now, a lawyer needs to know that how documents are getting interpreted, how the law is getting applied. That experience comes through that litigation experience. Now, besides litigation, then he is also a draftsman of contracts and agreements. He needs to be negotiating contracts on behalf of his organization. So he needs to have a skill which should give him strength in terms of command over language.
Okay.
Command over legal interpretation. So now for that also he needs to be exposing himself or herself in terms of contract drafting. So I think that is a second level of skill which he needs to develop. And the third level is, of course, that you need to be a good negotiator, you need to be a good communicator, you need to be a good risk assessor, and above all, you need to be knowing your business. You need to be knowing your ecosystem, not only legal ecosystem, but then also the economic environment in which you are operating.
Yeah, so just to sum up, three things. First, you should have your legal knowledge. Second, you should have that contractual drafting knowledge as well. And third, you should also possess a business acumen with you to just understand the entire ecosystem.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when you transitioned from the lower hierarchy into such a big leadership position, as you were also there in before, what is that mindset change that happens in that transition? Like, what does a successful lawyer, or what is the meaning of success to you, and how has it evolved as you have moved up the hierarchy?
Well, Aishwarya, one point which I would like to mention here, that I always worked as head of the function.
Okay.
So I have never worked at a junior level position.
Okay.
Perhaps because of my academic background, or perhaps because of some other background. So I was fortunate.
Which is fair enough.
Which I was fortunate. I was fortunate in terms of getting those kinds of positions. And I was from the very first employment itself. I was head of a function, or head of legal taxation secretarial function, at times finance function also. So that was my journey. But then, having said so, all experiences teach you different things. All experiences teach you how to operate in an ecosystem which is at times full of adversities. And the adversities are not only the legal and regulatory framework. The adversities are the overall environment, the ecosystem, and which include a legal ecosystem of the functioning of the institutions, whether those institutions are bureaucracy or the justice delivery system. So you operate in that kind of environment, and I would say that as I experienced in the last 3 decades, different kinds of industries. I have worked in automobiles to information technology to, I think, the real estate or hospitality or core industries or mining metals, and almost all kinds of industries I worked. Each of these industries have different expectations. Each of these industries would have, different kinds of challenges. And I think that is how you become a well-rounded professional, which I cannot claim that I am the well-rounded, but then I'm working towards that. And I would say that I would recommend that for young lawyers also, that they should be exposed to all kinds of issues and all kinds of industries, and that will give them that strength that yes, they know this subject, or they are, in the right
Fair
place.
enough,
Yeah.
sir. Yeah. So just a random question that I just put in. A person, a lawyer who is very technically aware, who is a very smart academia lawyer versus somebody who is commercially and financially aware, who do you think holds a better advantage in this line of, say, in-house legal profession?
Well, I say that legal is a prerequisite.
Yeah.
You need to be knowing your subject.
Yeah.
If you don't know your subject, you can't do justice
Yeah.
to the business in which you are working. So that is the prerequisite. But then undoubtedly, if two people are at the same level, I would assume that both candidates would be having legal knowledge because they're all law graduates. Then weightage you would be giving to the person, perhaps not in terms of his ranking in the institution, but who is having business orientation, who is commercially minded person, who is smart in terms of assessing the risk and the strengths.
Yeah. So, say in your line of work, you have to make a decision. And on the two ends, one, there is commercial viability, commercial practicality, and on the other hand, there is that you would have to, say, go around the law a little bit. You don't have to go against the law, but legal imperfection versus commercial practicality. So how do you balance these two aspects if they are involved in a decision? And if you can't, then which of the two would you say give a more preference factor when making a decision?
Well, Aishwarya, it's an interesting question, and I must tell you why interesting question, that it's not black and white.
Yeah.
Always. Okay. Now, if suppose something is legally wrong,
Okay.
you will never advise
Yeah.
your client to be doing something wrong,
Yeah.
even if that is commercially viable.
Yeah.
Because today or tomorrow, you will have to face the consequences.
Okay.
But legal is not that perfect a system.
Yeah.
Because legal is basically interpretation.
Yeah.
Legal is basically interpreting your contract and interpreting the law.
Yeah.
And when you are in that kind of environment where you know that if you are right in terms of your interpretation, there is a case. You can, you can contest that, or you can be, relying on that, and you will be making your decisions accordingly. Now, there may be adverse consequences in the times to come. There is a possibility. But then if you have made out your case that legally, contractually, you are right in terms of your interpretation, and your interpretation is not based on any irrationality. In fact, it's your rational decision. I think you should go for that. And that is the risk which organizations take, professionals take, because ultimately it's interpretation. And you will notice this, because when the same contracts or issues get in the court process, the decisions are getting reversed because people are interpreting and inferring the document differently. So it's all minds, the way in which you read a document, the way in which you apply the law in your document. This is how you take it. Yeah.
Just to follow up to this, say a decision is the most legally right thing to do in terms just of the legal aspect, but it is not the most ethical thing that can be done. So does a GC's or just an in-house counsel's legal mandate extend to just checking the legality, or he or they have to consider the ethical aspect of their decision making as well?
Well, I have not seen any law which is legal but unethical.
Fair enough.
Okay. So all laws, when they get framed keeping into consideration the societal needs, the morality and ethics in the society. So they get made in that fashion only. So the no law you will find that which is unethical, so to say. Even those kinds of laws which were relevant at one particular point of time, say 100 years back, perhaps they might not be relevant today. The definitions are undergoing change. Legislative changes are taking place. So I would say that from as far as this question is concerned, I think both will have to go together. You cannot have a position whereby something is legal but unethical. It doesn't happen in that.
Yeah, okay. Just straying away from this a little bit. So when you have deals or when you deal with companies who have cross-border transactions usually happening. So for example, if a company is operating in different continents, India, US, UK, and of course each place has its own regulatory framework. So then how do you have like a core philosophy that you apply when dealing with all these cross-border legal transactions, or you customize your strategy for each different case that comes to you?
Well, Aishwarya, it's very, very interesting question and very important question, because when you are working in an environment where multiple jurisdictions are there, cross-border transactions, obviously would lead to, multiple jurisdictions. You need to be knowing the legal systems of those jurisdictions. I'm sure you are a lawyer. So as a lawyer, you must be knowing that we have broadly two systems, or we can say three systems. One is common law systems, another is civil law system, and third is a mixed law system. And of course, there are some multiple branches also in these systems. Your contract, your law, that gets interpreted differently depending upon these ecosystems or these legal systems. So you need to be knowing those very legal systems. You cannot have a contract with a civil law jurisdiction counterparty on the same levels of parameters which normally you apply in a common law jurisdictions like India or England or for that matter many other countries. So, and even in the common law systems you will notice that there is a wide variation. Now the way in which the contracts get made in the United States, that is also common law jurisdiction, but there also you will find a difference. So you need to be knowing those relevant legal systems while you are drafting a contract or while you are negotiating a contract. And of course, the legality as far as those jurisdictions are concerned, particularly when you are working on industries which are highly regulated in those jurisdictions also. For example, infrastructure, for example, metals and mining. So these are the industries you need to be knowing, those very not only the legal systems, but also the legal frameworks in which you would be operating or your contracts would be tested. So I think relevant question, I think, and that is where we say that the lawyers or in-house counsel, they need to be developing that skill set in terms of, working in those jurisdictions.
Can you give an example if you have in mind कि जहाँ पे ऐसा ही cross border legal transaction हुआ था and something that happened that actually shaped your legal thinking as a GC or as an in-house counsel?
Well, Aishwarya, multiple transactions. Just take example. For example, in any contract you will have arbitration clause. Okay. Now, it's a fairly standard in almost all commercial transactions. Normally, for the last couple of decades, parties are preferring arbitration as a dispute resolution mechanism. Contracts gets executed, arbitration clauses are there, but if suppose in one of the contract the governing law was English law, arbitral institution was an English institution, you get some anti-injunction suits also decided from for English courts, but in the jurisdiction in which you need to be enforcing that, the courts there, they do not entertain that. And there are at times, certain requirements that even if somebody has signed a contract which is having an arbitration clause, his general authority, power of attorney or the board resolution which authorizes him, that should specifically mention that he is signing the arbitration clause. Now that requirement might not be there in 99% of the other jurisdictions. But then if you have that kind of situation, what would you do? Okay, so the whole strategy or litigation strategy might undergo a change. So is the case, in almost all kinds of contracts, wherever we are in the infrastructure sector or metals and mining, there are environmental law related issues, or there are, those regulatory issues impacting those particular industries. And you need to be, knowing about that, else you will face the consequences. Yeah.
So does the coming of AI, has it helped the in-house legal space, or has it formed more shortcomings, or has it even affected the day-to-day functioning at all?
Aishwarya, whether we accept it or not, this is a fact that AI would stay here.
Yeah.
It is the same thing what we have seen, say, 2.5 decades back, when those softwares came or the computer systems came, or, so this is the same kind of thing. It is a tool. It's a very good tool. So the fact remains that in the times to come, AI would stay. In the times to come, the definition and the overall framework of legal services is bound to change.
Fair.
It is changing today. It's bound to change. The way in which I look at it is very differently. I'm not on that, I have seen some of the discussions where people say that, it would be taking away the jobs of lawyers and all that. But fact remains that the larger part of our society, they are not having legal services available to them. Because legal services are very expensive, because lawyers are not available. There's a huge sector and nearly around 1.5 million enterprises here in India, which is in the MSME sector. They do not have legal services. Who would be providing them legal services? So I would say that this AI would help tremendously in terms of legal services to that sector. And who would be providing that services? Obviously, the lawyers which we are producing today. So if you just just shift your focus from a few big corporates to a larger section of other business and commercial enterprises, there is a huge scope. And that is what I would say, that this AI would lead to democratization of the legal services. At every level we will get services. So I think this is what is changing now as regards in-house functioning is concerned. Almost, I think, whatever big legal setups, wherever in those organizations, it is being used. Tools are being used, and I think for the better. In terms of the qualitative aspect of it, etc. I think it has impacted positively. I would say, not at all negatively, and it would continue.
Yeah. But still, what factors or what skills do you think that will remain irreplaceable even with the incoming of AI?
Well, history suggests us, Aishwarya, history suggests that tools are ultimately tools. Human intervention would always be required. Now, you cannot, it's just a tool where you are directing a tool to do something. It doesn't mean that you would not be applying your mind. He's not applying mind for you. You are, even for application of mind, you are instructing him. Instructing the tool, AI tool, to apply your mind, apply the tool's mind in this fashion. Who would be giving that instruction? This is what the human intervention would be. And whatever comes out from that tool, are you relying on that completely? Answer is no. You will have to be reading it, and then applying it. So that rationality, that application of mind, that would always be human, and that will remain. And it is you take any equipment, even the robots, somewhere someone is guiding them. So I think we need to be taking AI only as a one tool or one equipment, which is facilitating our life, which is facilitating our life in terms of quality deliverables. And this is how I take it here.
Fair enough. I think that is a very interesting point that you made, that it will lead to proliferation and democratization of the legal systems, and that access which is not now available, it will increase to others as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so, but just again coming back to how a young lawyer, or say somebody who wants to transition into the in-house field, do you think, apart from as the 3 qualifications that we had mentioned, since you are somebody who has such a strong academic background, who has such diverse qualifications, is that factor necessary, say, to get into a higher up position eventually? as somebody gets into the in-house legal field and of course then climbs the ladder, or just years of practice, say not without as much as diverse educational experience would also suffice?
Well, at times many qualifications are ornamental degrees, perhaps.
Yeah.
But then, yes, I do believe that all formal qualifications give you structured knowledge about a particular
Yeah.
subject. But it doesn't mean that a person with only one qualification of law would not be, would not be in a position to deliver the services of in-house counsel or general counsel. In fact, there's a large majority of general counsels or in-house counsels. They might be having only legal qualifications, but then they are performing exceedingly well. Even in our teams here also, there are graduates from, of course, various universities, NLUs or non-NLUs, but then they are doing fantastically well. So I would not say that you need multiple qualifications for that, but then yes, as I'm also academically oriented, so I strongly believe that people should have structured knowledge about certain things that will give them, their horizons would become, broader. Their rationality in terms of, appreciating anything, any subject, that also gives them, some strength. So I think this is how I would take it. But it's not necessary.
It's not necessary. Since now you've received so many accolades, you've done such diverse, extensive work across 3 decades. You've reached to such higher leadership positions. So what still keeps you, motivated, or what is that one thing that you would say that keeps you motivated to continue in the legal industry and continue to, guide people under you and be a mentor for them? So what is that one thing for you?
Well, Aishwarya, so first let me comment that I have not reached to any level which you are beautifully summarizing. Yes, I'm doing my work.
Yeah.
I got some good positions and good opportunities.
Yeah.
God has been kind to me, and I'm grateful to those organizations who have hired me. But then, having said so, legal is one such discipline which keeps you always active.
Yeah.
Because of the changes,
Yeah.
because of its dynamism,
Yeah.
because of and particularly in the global world in which we operate.
Yeah.
So it's always keeps you active. So
Yeah.
this is one part. But then yes, besides this professional work, you need to be getting motivated by doing certain other things also. And in my own way, I try to create an influence mechanism so that we can have a better legal ecosystems. For example, if I use the word fighting for recognition of the general counsels or in-house counsels today, unfortunately, this is one stream, this is one profession which caters to a large section of lawyers, but they are not being considered by the Bar Council regulations as advocates. I think that this is a serious anomaly. Now, how would you be attracting a young, bright lawyer to a profession, which profession is not being recognized by any regulatory mechanism? Now, I have never seen any other profession which is not being recognized. For example, I'm a chartered accountant. I might not be practicing, but then still I'm a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. And so is the case with many other professional bodies. I'm still a member, though I'm not practicing that profession. But legal is one such profession. The Advocates Act or the Bar Council regulations, the moment you enter into your role as in-house counsel or you take any employment of even legal nature, you will have to surrender your Bar Council membership. So Bar Council membership, they don't recognize you as professional. And in fact, there is no body which is supervising this profession. So I'm in fact, working on that. I'm in the talks with the Ministry of Law and Justice and all other relevant, bodies in terms of changes in the legislative framework or regulatory framework, whereby this profession should be recognized, because India needs this stream of professionals. We need to recognize that a profession has different facets. In-house counsels and general counsel is one such facet of a legal practitioner, and let's that be recognized, because Indian industry needs that, and young lawyers need them. They need to be recognized somewhere. So this is one area where I am working. And I do also work on various initiatives on legal reforms and almost all kinds of sectors, from contract law to industry-specific laws. So on a professional front, I do all these activities. On personal front, of course, I do many other things. So that's fine. Yeah.
Fair enough, sir. So now, as you had mentioned, as just continuing with this topic, why do you think that there is this inherent bias in the first place then? That GCs or say in-house in general are not being recognized or not being given the same status as somebody who is a practicing advocate with the Bar Council?
Well, I would say it's perhaps lack of knowledge.
Okay.
Lack of understanding.
Okay.
This is how I would be, because I don't see any rationality in terms of not recognizing this. We are a common law jurisdiction. So there are so many common law jurisdictions. All those common law jurisdictions, perhaps we are the only exception. All other common law jurisdictions, acknowledge and recognize this profession, except us. Now, the reason are historical, because Advocates Act got constituted in early 60s. Bar Council regulations came in that period. Now, thereafter, year on year, there is no, because even today, if you notice, a large section of people who got elected through the Bar Council process, they are practicing lawyers. They are either civil lawyers or criminal lawyers. They don't know, in fact, that there is a huge area of practice, and which is corporate law. And it is really surprising for me that even in today, in the court litigation work, there is a significant amount of cases which are coming from the business world or the corporate world. Still, perhaps this is the lack of awareness due to which perhaps they are not doing these serious efforts. Another one reason which comes to my attention is that perhaps there is one fear that what if this profession gets acknowledged and recognized, whether that would be impacting the practicing side of the profession, and which I believe are absolutely unfounded. Because we are not at all talking about replacing the practicing side of the profession. That would still continue. But at least please recognize us.
Yeah, I think that is a very important point as well. Do you think that there is a legal black swan that might be affecting the regulatory systems in India to that extent that companies might need to rethink, for example, the legal strategies to, pass through it? So can you think of anything that might affect companies as such?
Well, whatever comes up, that would be coming up for the good. And I will give you reasons why. Today, we are a $4 trillion economy. We have our aspiration of, say, $35 trillion economy in the next 2 decades. Obviously, the increase of this kind of, GDP growth would be largely in various sectors of the economy. Infrastructure is one amongst them, or many other sectors. So obviously, this growth is not possible without the right legal and regulatory framework. And if those legal and regulatory framework would be coming up, that would certainly be impacting the kinds of legal services which we are providing today. So there would be a shift in terms of the quality of legal services or the nature of legal services. That would certainly happen. But I would also see this in this fashion that today, all developed countries normally, they would have a legal services sector nearly, say, 1.25 to 1.5% of the GDP. We are not even perhaps 0.15% of our GDP. So obviously, when the economy size would increase, the legal services market would increase tremendously. And that legal services market would increase tremendously. Perhaps we might not achieve 1.5% of the GDP, but then even 0.5% of the GDP would be a significant number. And why that market would increase? Obviously, because there would be changes in the legislative framework. The priorities of the governments would change, and so is the priorities of the organizations. One important aspect which I want to focus on this issue is that gone are those days where government was the initiator of the business. Government would no longer afford to continue in those businesses where you have the private players available. So the moment you would open up, all these things would be available for the corporate sector or the private sector. And that would be the driving force for the economic growth of the nation. And so is the legal services market is bound to grow.
Okay,
Yes.
I understand. So now, since we are reaching the finale of our conversation, just one last question to you. What would be that one advice that you would give to your younger self when you were starting out in this profession that would also apply to other people who are, in this legal space or in the in-house legal space and want to climb up the ladder as you?
Well, I would say, Aishwarya, that one line you said, I would say never stop learning.
Yeah.
Because life will never stop teaching you one way or the other. So never stop learning. And another point for, particularly the legal professionals, I would say never say no.
Yeah.
Because at times you never know. Even the wild ideas get sold.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
sir.
very
Thank you
much.
so much, sir, for giving your time, and thank you for all your insights. And I hope that our viewers have taken a lot of learning from all your wise words, and they view this as a fruitful conversation for them, because for sure it was for me and for all of us here.
So nice of you. Grateful to you, Aishwarya. Thanks for having me.
Yes,
and
sir.
wish you all the very best.
Thank you
Take
so
care.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone as well. See you in the next conversation.